What's up, YouTube? The Prof is finally back on YouTube, and so good to be back. Hope you guys are doing great out there in YouTube, reseller, entrepreneur land, wherever you're tuning in from. It has been a little while since we've been on the air. Karin is not with me today because she's working somewhere else, playing with some other kids. But I am here, and I'm glad you guys are here. And if you don't know about me and this channel and Karin, this channel is about being a reseller. It's about being in business for yourself. It's about being an entrepreneur, finding your why in life, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how to do it a little bit better, and having a positive community here on YouTube. So welcome everyone back to the Prof Sales channel. If you haven't been here a while, man, it feels like it's been like 2 months since I've made a video, and a lot has gone on since then. I could probably do a 2-hour video just talking about the past 60 days. But today's topic is going to be a little more direct than that, a little more targeted than that. But we have been gone away from YouTube since probably has been close to 2 months, maybe a month and a half. We went on another buying trip with some partners of ours. We went to, where did we go? We went to the Midwest and helped with the liquidation of some stores. There's some stores they were liquidating in the Midwest, and we helped them actually source product from those stores. We were out on the road for about 3.5 weeks, roughly, and it was a crazy, fun, long period. We flew into Chicago, Illinois on a Monday, and we came back to Charlotte, I think 3 weeks and 2 days later on a Wednesday. So we were gone for over 3 weeks, and we went to Illinois, we went to Minnesota, Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Maryland, chasing these stores in this liquidation. So it was nuts. And I definitely want to do a video with a little bit more about that trip, just kind of sharing what we got, what we learned on it, what we found. But suffice it to say that it was a crazy experience that, I wouldn't trade for anything. It was super tiring for sure. We worked long days, like 12-hour plus days. And we sourced thousands and thousands of items. I want to say the actual total was maybe around 30,000 items we sourced in those 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, because there was a team there in place before we actually got there. So it was nuts. And Karin and I, we drove. So I have ScoutIQ on my phone, which tracks business miles. Unfortunately, I could not use it for this trip because it wasn't my car and it wasn't my trip, wasn't my stuff that I bought. We drove over 5,000 miles in those 3 weeks. It was nuts. And it took a toll. Like, my body was feeling it so bad. Like, I was just like, get me out of this car. And I saw some states I hadn't seen, been to some cities I had not been to before. I went to Minneapolis, which was cool. Minnesota was super fun to go to. The people in Minnesota were so nice. The weather was great. Not so sure how it would be in the winter. But Lauren, if you're out there watching, your state is awesome. Much love for the state of Minnesota. We spent a good amount of time in Wisconsin. We went to Green Bay. We stopped in to see Resale Rabbit, John Dugan, and his setup there, which was really cool to see. He has this big, huge warehouse, and he's been killing it with, this new business model he has. And it was fun to go to both of those states. Illinois I'd been to before. We stayed on a farm out in the middle of nowhere. I shared some of that on my Instagram. It was so peaceful. It was so beautiful. Man, there's something to be said for farm living, guys. I just got to tell you that. I mean, I don't know about all the work on the farm. That sounds really hard. But to be living on a farm is really cool and nice and just so peaceful. And you would drive sometimes for 2 or 3 miles and not see another car. Man, so good. We spent time in Milwaukee, time in Chicago, We spent some time in parts of Michigan, a little bit of Indiana, a decent chunk of Pennsylvania, around Harrisburg and so on. And man, travel is great, and so is coming home. So, I'm glad we've been back home now for about 2 weeks. And I meant to get this video up earlier, but we just didn't have time to do it. But guys, if you get a chance to go out and source or run your business from the road and see parts of the country or parts of the world, wherever you're at, go do it. It's worth it. It's worth it to see some new areas, to, you'll learn a lot. We only sourced books one day we were out there. We really only had 2 days off the whole time we were there. And we used one of those to source books, which was great. We shipped from the road. And, it was quite the adventure. We spent over $300,000 on inventory, which was nuts. I personally, here's the funny part. Some of you get a kick out of this. So my part of this trip, my responsibility was to source cosmetics. So if you can imagine me walking up to a cosmetics counter and knowing nothing about cosmetics before this trip, other than that they exist and that for the most part women wear them, it was pretty fun. So I learned a lot about cosmetics, but I would walk up to these counters and buy just like, thousands of dollars of cosmetics in one fell swoop, which was funny. And I have some funny there were some funny experiences and things that happened while we were out there. If you guys don't know the name of the store was the Bonton group of stores. I'd never heard of them before, but they have a lot of different brands. Carson's, Yonkers, Bonton itself, the Boston store. I know I'm forgetting some. I'm forgetting some of them, but they have about 8 or 9 different store brands and so on. But it was a lot of fun to go out and be part of Liquidation. How did Ben survive on his own? He did great. He learned to drive in between Vegas and this trip, and he did awesome. And he was able to navigate around and get where he needed to go. He had the car, and so he definitely grew during the 3 weeks as well. Sorry, Seam Store. I didn't know we were in your neck of the woods. We were only in Harrisburg and Carlisle for. We really weren't in Harrisburg. We were in Carlisle for like a couple of nights, I guess, and that was pretty cool. Yeah. So these stores were awesome. They, liquidations are a sad fact of life in our new economy, guys. But a lot of these huge, big box stores are just going to go out of business or department stores, because they just can't make it anymore. They've made bad decisions. They have huge leases. People just don't shop them like they used to. So great opportunities for you anytime there's a liquidation. We saw lots of other resellers out there. I ran into a few of them. I don't think we ran into anybody doing it quite the same way we were doing it, but we did run into somebody who bought up a lot of they bought up a lot of one line of cosmetics right after we left, which was kind of funny. And I'm like, well, you missed the best stuff, but maybe you'll do fine. I don't know. But the deals were crazy. Like a lot of the items got down to like 80 to 90% off. And really this stuff was worth manufacturer retail pricing. I mean, it was so low because the stores were liquidating. So if you get a chance and you run into and you hear about a liquidation, absolutely check it out. Bring your wallet, bring your purse, and be prepared to spend, guys. And just spend, even if you're only going to make a 30, 40, 50% net profit on an item, you can buy tons of them all at once. So lots of great fixtures out there too. Of course, no way I could take advantage of them because we were hundreds of miles from home, but there were some great deals on fixtures from these stores as well. So definitely a learning experience. But I definitely want to share book results before I get too far into this video. Excuse me. So hang on one second. Let me. It is so hot here. Sorry. It's the humidity before the hurricane comes to the Carolinas. Thank you if you reached out to us on Facebook, by the way. I think we'll be fine from the hurricane. If it does come this direction, which it looks like it's starting to turn a little bit more to the north, I think we'll be okay. We likely will get some wind and obviously rain, but we'll be ready for it. The stores are all running out of bottled water. It's kind of funny. I think people are thinking it's going to be the end of days or something, but thank you for your concern if you have reached out to us. So let's share some book numbers. So this past month, August, was month 3 of a full month that we've been selling books. And it was a great one. It was our best month yet. We grew our bottom line sales. We learned some more things about selling. We didn't send in hardly any books in August. That's what's so interesting, guys. Like, we were gone for most of August, right? So we sent in 1 shipment from the road, and that was it. That was all we sent in. We sent in, let me find it. We sent in 73 books on August 19th. So nothing crazy. And so all these results I'm about to show you are, take into account that we did not really send in any books. And even when we did, it was like 3 weeks into the month. So let me share with you guys how we did. Let's see if I can get the screen share going here. All right, book metrics. All right, so you can see here, here's the month of September, or excuse me, month of August, the month we're talking about. We only did 6,200 scans. I mean, like I said, we were gone for over 3 weeks. We just didn't do very many. We did manage a 639 scan per hour total, which is pretty good. And we pulled out 203 books, but we didn't send all those in. Some of those we got right at the end of the month and sent in at the beginning of September. So that's why we only actually sent in 73 books in the month of August, which was great. Our cost was $287 on those, so about $1.41 per book, a little bit higher than it had been running. We had to source on the road a little bit, and some of the prices were a little bit higher. So all in all, pretty happy with those numbers. We listed 73, as I said. That was it. That was all we listed. So a pretty paltry number of listings. We did not sell any merchant fulfilled. I do not have any active right now. And here's what we sold in FBA. We sold 102 books. So we broke the 100 book barrier, which was nice. That was up from 81 the month before. Now remember, guys, that was considering we sent nothing in for 3 weeks. And even then it was only a small shipment that didn't even replace the 81 we sold the month before. So that's really great. That's the power of Amazon and book selling, I think. That grossed $15.66 or $15.35 per book. And our net per book looks like it was right around $4.74. Now, the reason this is such a jump up from the month before is because we didn't have all those costs of sending in books, those shipping labels, as well as additional sourcing. So I think that number is probably closer to a real number in the long run. Once you get an inventory in there and you can maintain, I think you can net close to $5 a book without breaking a sweat at a $15 average sale price. And then you just replace each month what you sold. So that's a pretty good month. I'm going to come back for a second. So I think that's kind of the model. Like, if you say you had 1,000 books on Amazon and you were selling 100 of them a month, if you got to the point you need to ramp up to 1,000, that's going to cost you some extra money to get books in the door, because you're going to pay extra to source them. You're going to pay more. You're going to be buying more than you're selling. You're going to be sending them in, which is going to cost you the shipping cost. But once you get up to your baseline number and you want to just maintain, then you can see kind of your true net. So last month was close to that. We did send in the 73, which pushed down that net a little bit. But I think a $5 net per book is not unreasonable at all. I think you can definitely get to a $5 net per book without really any problem at all. What's so interesting to me about last month is that this is where the difference is with eBay. I was worried about we weren't sending in books for weeks. Now remember, we did not send in any books until the 19th of August. So for those almost 3 weeks, we sent in zero, nothing. And the sales kept coming in because, you know, we hear this, you got to keep listing, you got to keep feeding the beast, whatever. And that's true to an extent, but it's also not true to an extent because the way Amazon is structured versus eBay, it doesn't require the same amount of listing that eBay sometimes seem to require to get more and more sales. Now, granted, you need more eventually because your inventory will dwindle. But it was nice that I was able to keep getting sales without sending in a whole lot of books in behind it. I didn't even send in enough last month to replace what's sold. So really my inventory dropped by about 25, 30 books. So that's a nice difference between Amazon and eBay that I really like. Have you tried any book sales and what did you think of them? We haven't yet, Drummer. We have at least one on our radar for October. We have a couple others that we're looking at over the next few weekends and so on. There's a lot of book sales that happen in this area of the country in the fall. So that's kind of what our thinking is, but we are definitely going to hit some of them. We definitely have plans to do it, and we'll see what happens. I'll definitely give you guys a full report and try to take some footage while we're there. Are those sales without having the used buy box? You know, it's weird, Enrique. I don't know. I would say some are and some are not. I mean, some of my, for a while, none of my listings were buy box eligible, but I think they are again. It's really weird. I would say probably most of them are without having the buy box, which is interesting to me. I just think that depending on what you're sourcing, like if you're sourcing really good ranked books, people are buying those 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day or even more. So if you're in those first 10 listings or even 5 listings, you still got a good chance of selling it even if you don't have the buy box. But that's just kind of my opinion. I'm just thinking through it, what I think makes sense. I don't know that for a fact, but that's kind of how I seem to think it might be working. Seam Source West says, I missed hitting 20K for 31 days by $16. So close. Man, that is close. I think if you're $16, you can just call it 20K. Like, that's close enough. Do you have to wait until you have approximately 100 books before you send them in? Well, just try and make it. That's the $64,000 question. And the short answer is no. The long answer is because Amazon splits up your shipments, that you sometimes want to wait until you have a bigger shipment so that they kind of get redistributed. You know, you'd hate to like send in 30 books and they get sent out to 10 different fulfillment centers. It's just a lot of stuff to go through. I think there's value in waiting until you have a set number just because of your processes. For me, it's easier to get started and list 50 books or 100 books or 200 books at once than it would be to sit down and just list 10 today and 6 tomorrow and then doing the labels for, like, to me, that just doesn't make much sense. Like, I think you kind of get in a groove with it and you gain some efficiency just by batching one task together in one day versus spreading that task out over several days. So I would wait until, I think 100 is a decent number. I mean, 50 is a good number. I mean, whatever you want to do, but splits is the part that's really annoying when they split up where they're going. So I would probably wait. You can use inventory placement. They all go to the same place. Yes, that's true, Jeanette. I don't know. What's the fee for that? There is a fee, right, for inventory placement. I don't know what it is. I haven't used it, but you can do it. It might be worth it, honestly, but just whatever makes sense to you. I think if I'm trying to do shipments in like groups, not even groups. I'm trying to wait. So we have this goal for September to source 900 books, which is the most we've done by far. And it's basically going to be broken up into about 225, book chunks. So we're basically waiting till we have around 200 to send. And I'm going to show you my messy house. You can see like we already have, there it was yesterday, all ready to go. Don't you love those little eBay boxes, right? See how I repurposed those, my quarterly shipping supplies? But, and I've actually got, this computer is sitting on one of the boxes, which is funny. It's my computer stand. But we're waiting until we have a couple hundred to send at once, because that's just how we're sourcing. Like we're going out for 2 days and getting a couple hundred books and then coming back the next day and sending them in. So it really becomes like a 2.5 to 3 day process. So there you go. How many do we send our first shipment? I don't know. Actually, I could look. How many did we send our first shipment? Somebody just asked. Well, our first shipment was, looks like it was only like 20. I think we combined two. I think it was like 26 books. It was really low. It was really low. So there you go. So not a lot. But it really kind of comes down to the splits. And Jeanette says that she thinks the fee is 35 cents per book. Yeah, and if that's the case, like, it depends on what you're paying per book and what your fees are, but that's kind of high, in my opinion. So, you know, if you're, say you got a 200 book shipment and you want to do inventory placement, is it worth you figuring out where they all go and making up the labels, or instead paying 35% of, you know, or 35 cents times 200, 60 some dollars, $70? I don't know. I mean, that's probably close either way, but it's really up to you. I'm going to share a couple more things on the spreadsheet from last month. Let's see. See if I can get this to come up. All right, so new inventory last month was only 73. Let me highlight this again. That brought my inventory up to 926. We sold 102. So the sell-through is about 11%. I was hoping that would be a little higher, guys, to be honest with you. These sell-through numbers are kind of meh, in my opinion, so far. So I'm, you know, cautiously optimistic they will continue to increase as I get better at book selling. But basically, I'm turning, you know, 11, 12% of my inventory in a month. And that might be about right. I've seen numbers as high as 13, maybe even 14, maybe even 15. 10% would kind of be a threshold where I would not want to be below. I was below that in this month right here for July because I sent in so many. And that'll probably happen this month too, because we've already sent in 425. But I don't know. We'll see how that goes. A lot of fees, guys. Amazon is not cheap. $953 in fees. Woo, killing me, Amazon. Bezos is getting rich. ScoutIQ, which is the scouting app we use, we have 2 copies of it. That's why you see $69.60. But well worth it. That takes so much of the guesswork out of book scouting, and you can do it so much faster than you can with the Amazon Seller app. If you're interested in ScoutIQ, there is a link in the description of this video. I would appreciate it. It's an affiliate link. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it helps me out. But in any case, even if you don't use that affiliate link, I highly, highly recommend ScoutIQ. It's a very good app. Accelerlist is the listing app I use. Also, there's a link to that one as well. If you've used Inventory Labs or something like that, then you're familiar with these listing apps. But Accelerlist makes it so easy. And the version 2.0 is now out in beta. Curious to see what that's going to be like. I haven't tried it yet, but I will soon. Reprice is a repricing app I use to reprice the books. Just saves a lot of time versus me having to do them all. $1,000 in fees, guys, last month. $1,000 in fees and subscriptions. Selling books is not cheap. But, you know, as you keep going up, like these 3 right here will not really get any more. This one will increase. But these 3 subscription costs will not get any higher. So there'll be even a smaller and smaller percentage of the sales as we go. So no real defects last month. So netted about $348 on that $1,500. So if you take out the 73 books that we sent in, which cost about $100 in cost of goods, plus probably about $35 to ship in. So our profit would have been close to like $480 without sending any new books in. Kind of just if we were just replacing what we sold each month, so we weren't really spending any additional money on inventory. So that's kind of what I look at. It would have been around $480 if we hadn't sent any other books in, and it would have been $480 on a $1,500. So around 30%. I definitely want to see that get higher, and I think the way to do that is work on increasing this average selling price, trying to source books that'll sell for higher amounts. Also, probably tightening up my ranks a little bit. Some of my ranks, my books have been a little higher than I wanted. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm not a good sharer. So I think that's, you're not going to make like huge return on investment margins in books. I mean, you will on a per book basis, but when you start doing it scale, you're not going to make like $10, $20, $30 per book on average. I mean, not unless you're just only sourcing books that sell for like 25 bucks. So, it's not a get rich quick scheme. I look at it like it's a volume game. You got to get enough books in there to where you're just churning through, hundreds and hundreds of sales per month, and then you're turning some decent volume. Like, right now, my guess is selling 1,000 books a month would probably net you around $5,000 in pre-tax profit. So, that's pretty good. I mean, that's 60 grand a year, not bad. Could one person do that per month and have enough? Sure. I mean, could you could you have a 10,000 book inventory and sell 10% of it each month, or maybe even like only a 9,000 and sell, 1,000 books a month? Sure. Could you replace 1,000 books a month? You'd have to get 250 a week roughly. If it was just you absolutely could do that in probably a 4-day week, maybe 5 at the outside, depending on how much time and how much access to books you have around you. If you increase that average selling price, then you need less books. So you could even do it, in less time. If you're just going out and scanning through tons of books, I still think you could do it in a 5-day week without breaking a sweat. And then you just need to replace. I mean, it's just you replace the 1,000 each month that you're selling. You're not having to go out and get more unless you want to try to build. Maybe you hire somebody part-time to help you with part of it, either the book scouting or the prepping and shipping, whatever you want to do. Are you pricing, or do you have a repricer? Are you set it and forget it? Yeah, I have the repricer. I've been using repriceit.com, Repriceit, which is repriceit.com, which is great. And it's $17 a month for up to 2,000 listings, I believe. And it allows you to create templates. You can say, hey, take books that are this old and do this with them. Price against this set of factors, price against that set of factors. It saves you a lot of time, guys. Like, once you get up to a few hundred books, repricing could become very time consuming. And you really, if you're pricing, let's say this, if you're buying fast selling books that are like 500K rank and better, you need to be competitive with the buy box. And if you're not, if you just set it and forget it, as Jeanette was asking if that's what I did, you run the risk of like people consistently being a little bit below you and getting that buy box, and your book just sits there and doesn't necessarily sell. If you have 1 or 2 people below you in price and a fast moving book, not a big deal. If you got 20 or 30 people below you, that's a big deal. Like, your book could literally just not sell if those people keep getting replenished. Because what happens is somebody sells the book, say you're priced at $15 and there's a bunch of people, there's 50 people below you, all the way down to say $10. And what happens is somebody sells that book, but somebody else comes in and lists again at that low price. And then somebody else comes in and lists again at that low price. And people never even see your $15 book because you're buried, 3-4 pages into the listings. They'll just never even see it. And they're not going to pay, most people aren't going to pay 15 when they can pay 10 for the same book. Obviously, if you're closer to that buy box price, it doesn't matter as much. If a lot of people are buying a book per day, if it's a really good selling book, and you're at, $12.95 and the buy box is $12.85, but there's only 2 people between you and the buy box, maybe you've got a slightly better rating. Maybe the person who's got the buy box is just launched. Maybe the person who clicked on it likes the name of your store. Who knows? They might just buy it from you. Not a huge deal, but having the buy box is a huge advantage. It's not, I don't know if it's as big as advantage for books as it is for other categories of items, but it's still an advantage. And the only way you're really going to get the buy box is price. And the only way you're really going to be able to keep up with price, how quickly they change, especially on the quick selling books, is with a repricer. I mean, even now, after this shipment goes in, we're going to have over 1,000 books at Amazon. Am I really going to take the time to reprice all those books every day? No. I mean, what I do is I've been going through, and I'm still a noob at the repricing to some degree, but I've been going through and looking at the ones that are not getting processed and not getting repriced because of certain factors. Like your repricer will provide you a report that says these books didn't get repriced because, and then you go to each one and it'll tell you why. Like maybe the price fell too far, maybe the price went up too high, maybe there were not other competing offers for it to price against. There's all these reasons why a book won't get repriced by your repricer. So I've been trying to go in and look at those each day and make some adjustments to those, especially the older ones, so I can get them moving and get them gone. And that actually helped yesterday. Like yesterday was a great day. I think I sold like 9 or 10 books yesterday, and it's actually been spilling over in a day a little bit. Today has been good as well. I just sold a really expensive book for $76, which was great. And but yesterday sold like, I don't know, like 10, 11 units, which is great. Like if I could sell 10 or 11 per day, I'd be very happy. And I'll get there. It'll just take a little while. But repricing is important with Amazon. It's not as important maybe on eBay where you're not all listing against the same item. But on Amazon, repricing, especially for something like a commodity, like a book, is huge. I mean, it's not maybe it's huge in some things, but it's still important. And you've got to be competitive on price on the faster moving books, in my opinion. The long tail books that'll take a while to sell, maybe you can wait for your buyer because there's probably not as many of them listed anyway. Sorry that was a long answer, but it's not a simple question to answer. Where do you source? We've been sourcing thrift stores, libraries, bookstores somewhat. The big chains that are out there, the Goodwills, Savers, Half Price Books. Found one of those in Illinois for the first time, which was nice. Anywhere you can find them, and we haven't even branched out yet. We've got some ideas about how to get books a little bit easier and how to get them even cheaper. I don't think the price of books is ever going to be your biggest concern. I think it's just going to be getting quantity if you want to scale this business and being able to move through them quick enough, because books are everywhere, guys. Like they are so prevalent. And a lot of people just view them as a nuisance and want to be done with them. So do people still read, or do they buy books for show? Funny you ask that, Seam. So I've made a commitment that once a month, out of the books that we source, I'm going to find a book that I want to read and read it. I don't know if I get it read in 1 month, but I'll start reading it. So I started reading this book. I don't know if you guys ever watched the show Boardwalk Empire, but there was a character on there named Rothstein who was based on he was a real guy. And so we found this book the other day that talks about his real life. He was this kind of gambling crime boss guy in New York City back, almost 100 years ago, about 100 years ago. And it's fascinating, it's like all, because I watched the show and saw some of the things that he did. So I started reading, and it was kind of interesting. It's about 500 pages, but so absolutely people still read books. Is it a volume game? I mean, it doesn't have to be Drummer. You could just go out and look for $30, $40, $50 books. It's just going to take you longer. But when they sell, you're going to do great. Are you storm prepping? No, not really. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. We'll see. You live in the Carolinas, you see this all the time. These storms come, and most of the time they turn and they just kind of brush the coast. But we'll see. It could come right at us. And we had a bad one here many years ago. I wasn't here then, but it knocked down like 100,000 trees in Charlotte and knocked out power to hundreds of thousands of people. But if it happens, it happens. But we'll be fine. We've got water. we didn't go out and buy milk and bread. I never really get that. Like milk is, I don't know. I think if like a natural disaster is coming, I'm not sure milk is high on my list of priorities. Actually, it's not even a priority at all for me. Water, yes. Milk, no. The buy box sounds like a race to the bottom. It can be, Vicky. That's a great observation. I don't know that it always is, though. I think it just depends. I don't think it is with books. I don't think it's a race to the bottom. Repricers sometimes can go stupid and get crazy. If you tell your repricer to always go underneath your competition and theirs is doing the same thing, guess what's going to happen? You're both going to keep going down. All of a sudden, you're going to be selling the book for like $4 if you're not careful. But a lot of time, like for the popular books, there's so many buyers. You don't need to race to the bottom really. And Prime still gives you a little bump. I just think you have to decide, you make money in books on the front end when you buy the book. It's not when you sell. It's just like anything else. That's where you're making the money or losing money. And so if you buy the right books, the right ranks, with sort of the right sort of sales data behind them, which is one of the reasons I use ScoutIQ, you take a lot of the guesswork out of it and the race to the bottom. I mean, I don't think it's the same as like toys. For instance, toys can really be a race to the bottom sometimes. I know a lot of big toy sellers, and that can become a real problem. But I think books is a little different. But would it be easier to find a high-selling ASIN and source just those books? If you mean high-selling by like it sells for a lot of money? I don't think so, Aaron. I mean, because unless you're going to carry around with you some encyclopedic knowledge of like all these great books to buy and flip, and by knowledge, I mean like hundreds and hundreds of books you literally have to know of. And even then, I mean, we've already scanned 55,000 books since we started in May. And we haven't really gone at it like full time, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week by any stretch of the imagination. I think it would take you so long to find the books. Aaron says, I mean, sales velocity. Yeah, I mean, of course you can do only the higher ranked books. They're just low margin. For the most part, these are books that sell for like, $8, $8.50, $9. You just don't make a lot on them. You still have to put the same amount of time and work into them as you do a book that sells for, $15 or $20. So, there's your perfect example. Like all things equal, you're going to make twice as much on an $18 book as you are on a $9 book. Is it going to take twice as long to sell? I don't know. Probably not necessarily. You can find sub 1 million ranked books that sell for, $20, $25. You can also find sub 1 million ranked books that sell for $10. So it just depends. I don't think like looking only for high sales velocity books. I mean, I could set my triggers up to do that and say only pull the books that are say like 250,000 rank or better. They would be quick sales, no doubt about it. But man, it would be leaving out an awful lot of good books if you do that. So I just want to do it. Rex, I am not going to Phoenix. I got your message, and I'm sorry I've not contacted you back, but I'm definitely not going. I got way too much going on. We got a lot of prepping and shipping to do. And of course, sourcing 900 books this month is no mean feat. So there's just no way I can make it out there, but maybe I'll make the next one. Have you encountered books at once in the library? If so, how do you prep those to send them out? You just send them out. I mean, there's not really a lot of prep to do. You can put library copy on the notes if you want. I don't even know that it matters for a lot of books, guys. I only get crazy about the description. I'm actually going to streamline my descriptions, my notes. I think you should only get crazy about descriptions when it's a higher selling book, like price-wise, like when it's a book that sells for $50 or something like that. Because then I think people have a different expectation about the quality of the book. But if it's like a $12 or $13 book, I don't know. What is it really? I just don't think you have to go that crazy about describing the book, honestly. And if it was a library book, great. But even then, like a lot of people, you could say that to them, they may not even know, like, what does that even mean? So I've said put in some of my listings, I'm like, oh, library copy. And then I realized, like, what does that even really mean? You know, well, it was in a library once. It might have some writing and so on, but you could just say that too. And I don't know. Karen is actually at a part-time job, 10 of Hearts. It's true. She's not here with me today. Are you going to reprice your textbooks or leave the high price and wait for December, January? Yeah, good question, Enrique. I don't know yet. I used to think, they would only sell certain parts of the year, but now I'm thinking, from what I've read, that there's still like a textbook season kind of goes on all year long, just on a smaller scale. So I might just leave some of them alone, see if they'll sell. I didn't really get as many as I wanted. I started right in the middle of when the textbooks were becoming available, and I didn't really know anything. So I kind of missed this textbook season a little bit. But I will definitely be ready in December. If a buyer reads the book and doesn't like the ending, can they return it? INAD. No, that's a product review. Amazon would remove that feedback. They could return it, but they couldn't put that as a feedback. Rex says, I'm going to hit 10K for the first time. Man, killing it, Rex. Congrats, my friend. You are definitely killing it. That is awesome. We'll have to talk offline at some point. I think 10K for me is going to be, it's going to be a ways out. It's going to be a ways out, like probably maybe the first of the year or so would be reasonable to start thinking about, maybe even February. But we have a growth plan over the next, several months we're going to try to put into action. This month, like I said, we're going to double our inventory, which is nuts. And try to be, that should put us up around like, 1,500 or so, maybe by the end of the month. And that's going to be crazy. And so we will not be able to double it next month, though. I would love to sit here and say, we'll have 1,500 books at the end of this month and then double it to 3,000 by the end of next month. But when I start logistically thinking about getting 1,500 books next month, it's just, man, that's a lot of books. When you got to go pull 350 books a week, it's doable, but you really got to be strategic. And I just don't know where we would get them yet. I haven't quite figured out how much. I'm trying to figure out how much our sources can get. And then you start thinking, well, you can drive and go other places, which is true, but it takes time. And, we'll do that. And we'll definitely hit book sales. That can give us a nice little jump start. But a book sale, I think a book sale in a lot of cases is going to be kind of like going to like a book sale is going to be like doing a full day of sourcing. Just you're going to do it in less time and at one location instead of driving to a whole bunch of locations, which is cool and will definitely be an advantage because I realized like the 2 days we sourced this past week, we probably spent 3 hours driving, just going to different places. And I'm like, man, that's a lot of time when you really add all that up, like 3 hours driving. We could have gone to 3 or 4 more locations in that amount of time, all things being equal, if they were all closer together. So a book sale will be nice because I think we'll be able to be in one location, have thousands of books at our disposal to go through and see what we can get. Will the libraries disappear? I don't know. Maybe not. There's something people like about having a book in their hand that's different. Like ebooks and all these things are supposed to be the death of books, and the reality is people haven't liked them as much as they thought they were going to be liked. So people are like, well, ebooks and having them on a tablet are great, but we still like having a book in our hand. There's just something different about it that's hard to put your finger on. And one thing I learned in the reselling game is don't question the market. The market knows more than you do. If it's telling you something, believe it. Even if you think, I don't think that's right. The market is the market. And if people are telling you they want something and they'll pay for it and you can get it at a price that makes sense to make a good profit on it, do it. If it works for you, and the market is smarter than you. Ten of Hearts says, I'm going back to actual books. I missed them. I know, right? I've forgotten how much I miss reading now that I'm reading a couple again. It's so interesting. You don't have to charge a book's battery to read it. There's just something different about them too. Like, I don't know, this is going to sound weird. You guys are going to be like, Prof is a freak. But there's something cool about when you find an old book and you kind of, if it's not musty, I don't mean like a musty book, and you kind of like smell the pages, and it's 30, 40 years old. There's this smell of like, man, this is an older book, and now if it's musty smelling, that is not a good smell, and I do not recommend that. But there's just something cool about, what books smell like, what they feel like in your hand that you can't get from a tablet. You just can't get it. So definitely something that I think a lot of people like. Books are like records. I know, right? There's even some people who sell books to, they sell books to just by the color and type that you can put in your bookcase to look good. So they're like, oh, you want to do, a few feet of red books, or a few feet of this color, or a few feet of these classics, or a few feet of these fiction books, and they'll sell them to you for that. Not even what the books are about, just like by the color and the appearance. And that's kind of cool. So because people are using them to decorate, right? I mean, they're like a piece of furniture. I don't know if I'd call them furniture, but something like that. Yeah, now I'm going to get grief because people are going to be like, Prof smells books. It's true. I don't care. Sue me. Books are more relaxing than looking at a screen. I agree 100%. Adam's never smelled books before. Well, you don't know what you're missing, Adam. I'm just telling you. Tony says 350 books a week. That's not possible in my area. Too much competition. I source nights and weekends and barely do 30 a week. Well, I can't speak to your area, Tony, because I don't know where it is or what your particular situation is. But this is what I say. If a model that you're trying isn't working the way you're doing it, you need to adjust the model, or maybe go in a whole different direction. If it's not worth your time and energy to put into books, or you can't pull the inventory you need in your area, you should do something different. Absolutely. Like, don't keep beating your head against the rock. Give it a good try. Try to figure out everything you can about how to do it more effectively, efficiently. But if all that fails, you gotta adapt. And even if it means you have to give up sourcing books or whatever it is you're sourcing. So that would be my recommendation to you. But again, I don't know your particular situation, but I think that's always what people should do if they're just running into a brick wall. People make safes out of books. They cut out the inside to hide valuables. Yes, and apparently cell phones, so they can act like they're reading in school when they're really not. I learned that one the other day. Kids will cut out a cell phone size space and put their phone in it and act like it's the book, but meanwhile they're texting. So there you go. People found all kinds of. Well, listen, guys, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Sorry it's been so long since we've been on. Check out the description down below for helpful links, including ScoutIQ and Accelerlist if you want to source books, if you want to start buying books on your own. Some cool, really cool tools to help you out there. And leave me a question or comment when you get a chance, and I'll do my best to answer it. But thanks for hanging out here on an impromptu Tuesday, and we'll try to get back on here before too long. I'll see you guys all really soon. So, as always, this is Prof Sales saying good sales to you.